You feel everything deeply. Empathy as a spiritual superpower. Let's begin with one of the most powerful signs of a spiritually gifted individual: deep, soul-level empathy. If you often feel like you're carrying the emotions of the world on your shoulders, it's not just sensitivity, it's a spiritual gift. You're not weak. You're not overreacting. You were born with a higher spiritual vibration that allows you to sense, absorb, and process the emotional frequencies of people and environments around you. You can walk into a room and immediately feel whether something is off, even if everyone is smiling. You can sense pain behind someone's laughter, tension behind polite conversation, and sadness in silence. And while others may only see the surface, you feel what lies beneath. That's because your soul is awake. And when your soul is awake, it doesn't need words to understand people. It reads energy. This can feel like a burden at times. You may feel drained after being around certain people or find that your mood shifts dramatically based on your surroundings. That's not weakness. That's a sign your energy field is highly tuned to the vibrations of the universe. Empaths, true spiritual empaths, are often misunderstood because the world teaches us to be tough, detached, and logical. But you are here to remind the world of the forgotten power of emotional intelligence, compassion, and intuitive connection. Your empathy is not just about feeling others, it's also about healing them. People may open up to you without knowing why. Strangers may tell you their life story in a coffee shop line. Friends may call you their therapist even though you never trained as one. That's because your energy feels safe, clean, and honest. You offer what few people can: an emotional home where others can exhale and be real. But remember, being spiritually powerful doesn't mean you have to constantly drain yourself for others. Part of your power is learning how to balance your gift. You were born to feel deeply, yes, but also to protect your peace. You must learn to step back and ground yourself when the emotional weight becomes too heavy. Because when you care for your own energy, your presence becomes even more magnetic, more healing, more divine. So if you've been told you're too emotional, too sensitive, or that you care too much, take that as confirmation that you're tapped into something much bigger than most people can understand. Your empathy is your calling card, your superpower, your divine frequency, and the world needs more people like you who feel not just with their heart, but with their soul. You feel everything deeply because you were meant to heal deeply, and that's the mark of someone born spiritually powerful. You've always felt like you don't belong, the mark of a higher calling. One of the most common yet misunderstood signs of spiritual power is the constant feeling of not fitting in. From a young age, you may have looked at the world and thought, why does everyone else seem fine with this? You might have felt like an outsider in school, in social circles, or even in your own family. And maybe, for a long time, you thought something was wrong with you. But let me tell you the truth. You weren't born to fit in. You were born to awaken. Feeling like you don't belong isn't a flaw. It's a sign that you're spiritually different. While others are content with surface-level conversations and material success, you crave depth, purpose, and truth. You question systems that everyone else blindly follows. You notice things others ignore. And because of this, people may label you as too intense, too serious, or too different. But those labels are often placed on souls who were born with ancient wisdom and a mission that this world doesn't fully understand yet. The discomfort you feel in groups where superficiality rules isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's the universe gently pushing you away from the noise so you can hear the whisper of your own soul. You're not here to blend in. You're here to light a path others can follow. That sense of not belonging is the spiritual fire within you, refusing to settle. Think about it. Have you noticed how you're naturally drawn to solitude, reflection, or nature? That's because your spirit thrives in spaces where authenticity and alignment can breathe. You're here to live differently, think differently, love differently. And because of that, the crowd will never fully be your home. Your home is your connection to the divine. Feeling different isn't a sign that you're lost. It's a reminder that you're chosen. Many of the world's most powerful spiritual leaders, healers, artists, and thinkers started their journey feeling like misfits. But over time, they realized that their difference was their direction. Their isolation gave birth to inspiration, and their sense of being an outsider helped them see the world with soulful clarity. So if you've ever asked, "Why don't I fit in?" reframe the question. Ask instead, "What was I born to stand apart for?" You were designed to lead, to heal, to awaken, not to shrink yourself into a version of society's expectations. That emptiness you feel in the wrong places is the universe nudging you toward your true purpose. You don't belong everywhere because your energy is not meant for everywhere. Your light is rare, and it was never meant to be dimmed just to make others comfortable. You don't fit in because you were born to stand out. People feel drawn to you, even strangers. Your energy speaks louder than words. Have you ever noticed that strangers often open up to you? That people feel comfortable in your presence without even knowing why? Maybe someone you just met started telling you their life story. Maybe people say, "I don't know why, but I feel like I can trust you." That's not random. That's not a coincidence. That's energy. That's spiritual power. One of the most unmistakable signs that you were born spiritually powerful is this magnetism, this invisible pull that draws people to you without effort. You don't have to try to impress anyone. You don't need flashy clothes or loud words. Your energy does the speaking before you even open your mouth. You carry a frequency that others can feel, even if they don't understand it. This energetic presence is rooted in something deeper than charm or charisma. It's the spiritual light within you. You have a grounded, calming, or awakening energy that others subconsciously crave. In a world full of noise, you represent peace. In a world full of confusion, you offer clarity. And in a world full of masks, you radiate something rare, truth. Even when you walk into a room quietly, people notice. Some might be drawn to you instantly. Others may feel challenged by your presence, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your energy mirrors back their own lack of authenticity. That's the thing about spiritually powerful people. You naturally trigger transformation in others. Without even trying, you become a mirror that reveals who people really are or what they're running from. But don't misunderstand. This magnetism isn't about ego or control. It's about connection. You have an old soul, a deep awareness that makes people feel safe, heard, and seen. Your presence says, "You don't have to pretend around me," and that alone is healing. What makes this even more powerful is that you've likely had no formal training in how to be this way. You didn't study how to counsel or comfort people. It's just something you do naturally. That's the beauty of spiritual gifts. They're woven into your being. They're not learned, they're remembered. And here's something else to understand. This gift of drawing people in is also sacred. Not everyone who approaches you is meant to stay. Some people are simply passing through, seeking the light you carry. Some are meant to be helped, and others are meant to teach you a lesson. But your job is not to carry their weight. Your role is to shine, not to shrink. So if you've ever wondered why people seem to seek your presence, your advice, your energy, it's because your soul is radiating at a frequency the world needs. You don't need to shout to be powerful. You just need to be present. And your presence is magnetic because your spirit is awake. You're deeply intuitive. You know things without knowing how. Have you ever had a feeling something was going to happen, and then it did? Have you ever met someone and instantly knew whether they were trustworthy or not, even before they said a word? That's not guesswork. That's not luck. That's intuition. And if you're spiritually powerful, yours is likely sharp, constant, and undeniable. People who are born spiritually powerful often carry a deep inner knowing. It's not loud or dramatic. It's subtle, quiet, and precise. You pick up on things that others miss. You can read between the lines, hear what's not being said, and see through the surface into the truth of what's really going on. You don't need proof, you just feel it in your bones. This is not about being psychic in the way movies show it. It's about being tuned in to energy, emotion, frequency, and truth. While others rely solely on logic and facts, you feel the vibration of situations, people, and decisions. And more often than not, you're right. The reason this gift is so powerful is because it protects you. It gives you an invisible compass. Even when everyone else says, "Go left," something inside you whispers, "Go right." And when you trust it, things align. When you ignore it, chaos follows. sound familiar. Your intuition also helps you understand others on a soul level. You can sense when someone is in pain, even when they're smiling. You can feel when someone is lying, even if their words are perfect. You may walk into a room and instantly feel tension, joy, or fear, because your spirit is always scanning, always tuned in. It's like you've got a spiritual radar that never turns off. And this kind of knowing isn't something you can always explain. In fact, one of the hardest parts about being deeply intuitive is trying to explain your feelings to people who are disconnected from themselves. They may ask, "How do you know?" And all you can say is, "I just know." And that's okay. You weren't born to convince people. You were born to trust your gift and use it wisely. Your intuition also connects you to higher wisdom. Whether you call it God, the universe, your higher self, or divine guidance, you often receive messages in silence. You get downloads in your dreams. You get signs, synchronicities, and inner nudges that pull you toward your path, even if it doesn't make logical sense at first. This is not random. This is spiritual intelligence. So don't dismiss your gut instincts. Don't silence your inner voice just because others don't understand it. Your intuition is not just a feeling. It's a sacred tool. It's your built-in guidance system, designed to help you walk your purpose with clarity and strength. When you trust your intuition, you walk in power. When you ignore it, you walk in circles. So follow the knowing, because it's leading you home. You walk alone, but you're never lonely. Isolation is your power. There's something unique about people who are spiritually powerful. They often walk alone. But here's the truth. Being alone and being lonely are two very different things. Spiritually awakened souls thrive in solitude because they've discovered something sacred within themselves that the world cannot offer. You may have noticed that as you grow, your circle shrinks. Old friends fade away. Shallow conversations feel exhausting. Places you once loved now feel draining. That's not a loss. It's a sign of elevation. You're not being punished, you're being redirected. The higher your spirit rises, the more silence it craves. Why? Because your soul is aligning with its true vibration, and not everyone is meant to walk with you at that level. You were born with an energy that many don't understand. People might say, "You've changed," or "You're too distant now," but what they don't realize is, you're evolving. You no longer tolerate drama, gossip, or meaningless noise. You crave authenticity, depth, purpose. You've realized that protecting your peace is more important than pleasing the crowd. This is why isolation can be your power. In the quiet, you hear yourself clearly. In the solitude, your intuition sharpens. In the stillness, you receive divine downloads that are impossible to catch in the chaos. You've probably felt this. You step away from everything, go for a walk, sit in silence, and suddenly, everything makes sense. That's not coincidence. That's spiritual clarity. Most people are terrified of being alone because they haven't met themselves yet. But you've looked within. You've sat with your pain, danced with your shadows, and made peace with your own soul. You faced the silence and found gold in it. That takes strength, that takes courage, that takes spiritual maturity. Don't mistake your solitude as a weakness. It's actually the sign of someone who no longer depends on the external world for validation. You've unplugged from the matrix of noise and tapped into your own truth. And when you do that, your presence becomes magnetic. People may not know why they're drawn to you, but they feel something. They feel safe. They feel seen. They feel the power of someone who is whole, not seeking, but glowing from within. Of course, there are moments when it feels heavy. There are days when the loneliness creeps in. That's natural. You're human. But never forget this. The path of spiritual power is often a narrow road, walked by few and understood by even fewer. Still, it is the most rewarding journey you can take. Because on this path, you don't lose yourself, you meet yourself. And once you've met your true self, you'll never again settle for half versions of life, love, or purpose. So if you're walking alone right now, keep walking. You're not lost. You're in alignment. Your path isn't crowded because your calling is rare, and rare souls walk alone for a reason. Your energy speaks louder than your words, the aura of silent power. There's a mysterious quality about you that others can't quite put into words. They feel it before you even speak. When you walk into a room, the energy shifts. Not because you demand attention, but because your presence commands it. That is the silent mark of spiritual power. It's not about being loud or flashy, it's about being deeply rooted, unshakably grounded, and energetically aligned. You've probably experienced people staring at you without knowing why. Strangers feel drawn to you. Children or animals gravitate toward your energy. Others open up to you easily, even though they barely know you. These are not random acts. This is energetic recognition. Your spirit radiates something pure, something rare, and others can sense it, even if they can't explain it. Spiritual power doesn't need to be advertised. It doesn't seek approval. It just is. It flows from within. Your inner calm, your self-awareness, your quiet confidence, all these things emit a frequency that speaks volumes. It says, I know who I am and I don't need to prove it. And in a world full of noise, that silence becomes magnetic. People might mistake your calm for weakness, but they have no idea of the storms you've walked through to earn your peace. You're not passive. You're intentional. You don't react. You respond. You don't chase. You attract. That is the difference between someone who lives by ego and someone who lives by spirit. You also tend to protect your energy without explanation. You say no without guilt. You distance yourself from draining people. You avoid meaningless chatter. Why? Because you understand that your energy is your currency, and you no longer spend it on things that don't align with your higher purpose. This self-respect creates a spiritual boundary that others can feel. When people say, there's just something Heng about you, what they're really feeling is your authenticity, your alignment, your inner wholeness. You're not trying to impress, you're not trying to fit in, you're simply being yourself, and that is your power. This kind of presence can't be taught, it must be awakened. And for you, that awakening has already begun. You've let go of what's false. You've shed the masks, you've walked through the fire and came out with gold. That inner transformation is now reflected outward, and the world responds to it, because energy never lies. You don't have to speak to be heard. You don't have to explain to be understood. Your energy, your presence, your very being, they do the talking for you. So don't shrink to make others comfortable. Don't dim your light to fit into rooms that weren't built for you. Stand tall in your spiritual power and let your energy lead the way. Because your presence is not only magnetic, it's transformational. You experience deep emotional sensitivity, but it's your superpower, not a weakness. One of the most misunderstood traits of spiritually powerful people is emotional sensitivity. You feel things more deeply than most. You don't just hear words, you feel their weight. You don't just see someone's pain, you carry it in your heart. And for much of your life, you might have been told that you're too emotional, too sensitive, or that you take things too personally. But let me tell you something. This sensitivity is not a flaw. It's not a weakness. It is your superpower. Your emotional sensitivity is what allows you to connect with others on a soul level. You can walk into a room and immediately sense the emotional temperature. You know when something is off without anyone saying a word. You notice the sadness behind the smile, the pain hiding in someone's laughter. This ability to tune into the invisible currents of emotion is a gift few possess. Because you feel deeply, you love deeply, you care deeply, you give your all to people and experiences. And yes, that also means you've probably been hurt more than most. But even in that pain, there was purpose. Those emotional wounds didn't break you, they opened you. They taught you empathy, they softened your heart without making you weak. There's a sacred strength in being able to feel deeply and still remain open. Most people shut down after pain. They become cold, distant, guarded. But you chose a different path. You chose to feel it all and grow through it all. That takes courage. That takes power. Your emotional depth also means you have the ability to transmute pain into purpose. You don't just sit in your suffering. You learn from it, rise from it, and use it to help others. You turn your heartbreak into healing, your sorrow into wisdom, your tears into transformation. And that is the essence of spiritual power, taking the darkness and turning it into light. People are drawn to you because they feel seen by you. They feel safe. You don't judge. You don't rush to fix. You simply hold space, and that is healing in itself. Your presence tells others, you're not alone. I've been there too, and there is a way through. So never let the world convince you to numb your heart. Don't harden. Don't hide your emotions to appear strong. Real strength is being vulnerable and still standing tall. Real power is keeping your heart open in a world that tries to shut it down. Your emotional sensitivity is proof that your soul is awake, aware, and alive. So embrace it, honor it, protect it, but never apologize for it. Because the world doesn't need less emotion, it needs more heart. And your heart? It's one of your greatest gifts. You feel deeply connected to nature and the universe. You recognize the language of the divine. If you've ever stood under the stars and felt like the sky was whispering secrets just to you, then you already understand this truth. You are deeply connected to something far greater than yourself. Spiritually powerful people often feel an unshakable bond with nature, the cosmos, and the unseen energies that hold this universe together. You're not just moved by a sunset, you feel a sense of unity with it. A walk in the forest isn't just exercise, it's therapy for your soul. The ocean doesn't just awe you, it speaks to the depths of your spirit. You see, your connection to nature is not accidental, it's spiritual. Nature is the original teacher of balance, rhythm, silence, and flow. And when your soul is powerful and awake, you naturally gravitate toward those lessons. You recognize that everything, the trees, the rivers, the wind, the fire, the moon, carries divine intelligence. And more importantly, you're able to hear it. You've probably found peace in places others rush past. You've found answers not in books or speeches, but in quiet moments under the sky. That's because you're tuned into a higher frequency, a frequency that most people are too distracted or too disconnected to hear. But you're listening, you're aware, you're in alignment. This connection to the natural world also awakens a deep sense of responsibility and reverence within you. You treat the earth with respect. You care about animals. You notice signs from birds, butterflies, numbers, and weather patterns, things others brush off as coincidence. But you understand that these are not random occurrences. They're messages. They're confirmations. They're the language of the divine, and you were born fluent in it. This connection also makes you aware of energetic shifts. You can feel when a storm is coming. No, it just physically, but spiritually. You sense changes in the atmosphere, the vibrations of places, and the energy of people. That's not oversensitivity. That's energetic intelligence, another mark of your spiritual power. And in times of confusion, you don't always seek people for answers. You seek solitude. You go to the mountains, the trees, the stars, because you know truth is always whispered in silence. You've learned that everything around you is alive, conscious, and sacred, and you treat it that way. Your relationship with the universe isn't based on fear or control. It's based on love, trust, and surrender. You don't force things, you flow. You understand that life unfolds in divine timing. That's why even when things fall apart, some part of you still trusts the process. You know you're held by something greater. So don't let the noise of the modern world dull your connection. Don't let technology or chaos distract you from the messages nature is always sending. Go outside, breathe, listen, align. Because your power isn't just in what you do, it's in how deeply you feel your place in this vast, beautiful universe and how gracefully you walk in sync with it. You attract strangers, animals, and children. Your energy is a safe haven. Have you ever noticed how strangers open up to you out of nowhere? How children gravitate toward you without fear? How animals seem calm, peaceful, even joyful in your presence? That's not a coincidence. That's spiritual power manifesting as magnetic energy. And it's a sign that your very presence speaks louder than your words ever could. People might not be able to explain it, but they feel safe around you. They feel seen, heard, held. And it's not because you try to be that way. It's because your soul radiates a kind of stillness that invites openness. You don't need to announce your energy. It arrives before you do. It settles the room. It softens hearts. It brings comfort. Spiritually powerful people emit a vibration that transcends surface-level connection. Your aura feels familiar to those who are hurting. Your light feels like home to those who are lost. That's why people vent to you. That's why children find you funny, warm, or soothing. That's why animals trust you, even the shy or wounded ones. They can feel your frequency, even if they don't understand it. You don't chase attention. You attract it without effort. And that's because your energy isn't rooted in ego, it's rooted in truth. You're not pretending to care, you genuinely do. You're not faking peace, you've cultivated it within. And that authenticity, it's rare. People are starving for it. You've likely had people say things to you like, "I don't know why I'm telling you this, I've never told anyone," or "I feel like I've known you forever." That's your energy doing the work. That's your soul making others feel safe enough to let down their guard. But here's the truth. That kind of magnetism is both a gift and a responsibility. Because while your presence brings healing, you also attract the wounded. You draw in people who are seeking light, but not all of them are ready to hold it responsibly. Some will come to take, not to grow. That's why boundaries are crucial. Being spiritually powerful doesn't mean letting everyone in. It means knowing who is ready and who is simply reaching for your energy to fill a void they're not willing to heal. It's okay to protect your peace. It's okay to say no. Your presence is not for everyone, and that's exactly what makes it sacred. You must also protect your own energy, because while your light heals others, it can drain you if you don't replenish it. Take time to be alone. Reconnect with your source. Breathe, rest. Remember, even lighthouses need maintenance. Never underestimate the power of your energy. In a world full of masks, your presence is a form of truth. In a world full of noise, your stillness is a sanctuary. You don't just walk into a room, you shift it. You've survived what was meant to break you, and you're still standing. There's a quiet kind of power that lives in people who have walked through fire and didn't get burned, but instead came out shining. That's you. You've been through situations that were supposed to destroy you. Pain that should have left you bitter. Loss that could have broken your spirit. But here you are, wiser, stronger, and more radiant than ever before. Being spiritually powerful doesn't mean your life has been easy. In fact, it's often the opposite. Spiritually powerful souls are refined in adversity, forged in pain, molded through storms. Your strength didn't come from books or words. It came from experience. From surviving battles no one knows you fought. From carrying pain no one could see. From choosing love in moments that could have hardened you. You didn't just survive, you transformed. What was meant to kill your light actually expanded it. That heartbreak taught you compassion. That betrayal sharpened your intuition. That rejection reminded you of your worth. Every setback became a setup for spiritual growth. Every wound became a portal to deeper wisdom. This is why people can sense something different about you, even if they can't name it. They don't realize that the calm in your voice came from learning to breathe through chaos, that the softness in your heart was a decision, not a default, that your smile is a badge of honor, not naivety. You've earned that peace. You fought for it. You may not talk about everything you've been through, but your presence tells the story. You walk with the authority of someone who's battled darkness and chose light. And that power, that resilience, is sacred. You no longer need validation because you've met yourself in your lowest moments and realized your worth was never negotiable. You've stopped proving yourself to people who never took the time to understand your journey. That's spiritual evolution. That's emotional maturity. That's inner royalty. And it's because of what you've survived that you can now be a guide for others. Your wounds have become wisdom. Your pain has turned into purpose. People will come to you not because you've read the most, but because you've lived the most and healed through it. But remember, you don't owe your survival story to anyone who doesn't honor it. Your journey is yours, and just because you made it look easy doesn't mean it was. Protect your story, share it with the right hearts, those who won't just hear it, but hold it. You are a walking miracle, a survivor who chose growth over bitterness, a soul who turned ashes into beauty. Don't ever let the world forget what it tried to take from you and failed. Because when people see you now, they see strength. But when you look in the mirror, you know the truth. That strength was built brick by brick, prayer by prayer, tear by tear. You are the living proof that spiritual power is not inherited, it's earned. You radiate peace without saying a word. True power doesn't need to shout. It whispers through presence. When you walk into a room, people feel something shift. They may not know what it is, they may not be able to explain it, but something about you feels calming, grounding, almost otherworldly. That's because you carry a rare kind of energy. You radiate peace, and that peace is magnetic. In a world full of noise, your stillness speaks volumes. You're not easily shaken, not because life hasn't thrown chaos your way, but because you've learned how to anchor yourself in something deeper. You've cultivated an inner world that's rich with clarity, faith, and trust. You don't panic when things fall apart, because you know that breakdowns often precede breakthroughs. That peace you carry isn't just personality, it's practice. It's the result of years spent choosing to respond instead of react. It's spiritual maturity. People are drawn to you because they feel safe in your energy. They feel seen, heard, understood. Your spirit offers what the world often fails to, non-judgmental presence, and that in itself is healing. You don't need to fix others. You don't need to dominate conversations. Your energy alone reminds people of what they're capable of becoming. That's what spiritual power looks like. It uplifts without force. It heals without trying. It transforms just by being. This peace you radiate is also a mirror. It reflects back to others the parts of themselves they've been avoiding. That's why not everyone can handle your energy. Some will be intimidated by it. Others might try to provoke you or dim your light. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your calm exposes their inner chaos. Don't take it personally. You were never meant to fit into noisy spaces. You were meant to bring clarity to them. Peace doesn't mean perfection. It means alignment. It means no. Wing who you are, what you stand for, and what you no longer entertain. It means saying no without guilt. Walking away without drama, protecting your spirit without apology. And the most powerful thing about your peace, it's contagious. The people around you start to breathe easier, speak more softly, think more clearly. You give them permission to slow down, to reflect, to feel. You don't even realize how many people you've helped just by being exactly who you are. So if you ever wonder why you're often the one people come to when they're overwhelmed, why they open up without knowing why strangers feel comfortable around you, it's because your energy is medicine, your stillness is sacred, your presence is powerful. Never underestimate the quiet strength that lives inside you. In a world addicted to loud, your peace is revolutionary. You don't have to say a word to make an impact. Just keep showing up with love, with grace, with presence. Because the most powerful souls are not the loudest in the room. They're the ones whose silence heals. You feel the pain of the world. One of the most undeniable signs that you were born spiritually powerful is your deep sensitivity to the world's suffering. You don't just see pain, you feel it. It's not something you can turn off. You carry an innate empathy that connects you to people, places, and even global events in ways that are hard to explain. You may weep for someone you've never met. You may ache for strangers going through loss. You may be overwhelmed by the sorrow you pick up from simply being in certain spaces. This kind of sensitivity is not weakness, it's spiritual radar. It means your soul is tuned in to a higher frequency. You're not just aware of your own energy, you're aware of the collective energy. That's why crowded places can exhaust you. That's why negative news drains your spirit. That's why conflict, even if it doesn't involve you directly, can feel like a wound on your own heart. You're an emotional sponge, not because you lack boundaries, but because you were born with a deep spiritual assignment to feel what others suppress, to absorb what others ignore, to help heal what others can't face. This gift of empathy is often misunderstood. Some may call you too emotional, too sensitive, too intense, but what they don't understand is that your emotional range is your spiritual compass. It helps you discern truth from illusion. It helps you recognize when someone's smile is hiding deep sorrow. It helps you hear the silent cries of the world. And here's the paradox. Your ability to feel such deep pain is also what allows you to channel profound healing. Because you've tasted sorrow, you can offer genuine comfort. Because you've felt darkness, you can become light. You don't just sympathize, you understand. But with great sensitivity comes great responsibility. If you're not careful, this gift can turn into a burden. That's why it's so important to create spiritual practices that protect your peace. You must learn when to lean in and when to step back, when to help and when to release, when to listen and when to let go. Not every burden is yours to carry. You're not here to fix the whole world. You're here to light it up with your presence. Sometimes that light will look like compassion. Sometimes it'll look like boundaries. Sometimes it'll look like fierce love that refuses to let suffering go unseen. You were born spiritually powerful, and that means you feel things more deeply than most. But instead of letting it break you, let it build you. Let it shape you into someone who uses pain as a portal to purpose. Someone who takes the weight of the world and transforms it into wisdom, healing, and hope. So yes, you feel the pain of the world, but that's because you were sent to help change it. And make no mistake, that is power. You are drawn to solitude and silence. One of the most overlooked but powerful signs of spiritual strength is a natural draw towards solitude and silence. While the world runs on noise, constant stimulation, notifications, opinions, and chaos, you often find yourself craving something entirely different: stillness. It's not that you don't enjoy people or connection, you do, but your soul recharges in silence. You feel most alive when the world gets quiet and your inner voice becomes loud. In fact, some of your most profound realizations and intuitive downloads happen in those moments when you're completely alone, away from the noise, disconnected from distractions. Solitude for you is not loneliness, it's a sanctuary. It's a sacred space where your spirit expands. When you're alone, you feel closer to your true self. You hear thoughts you didn't know you had. You process emotions with clarity. You even feel closer to God, the universe, or the divine source you believe in. This pull towards silence is a spiritual calling. You may notice that you retreat from superficial conversations. Small talk feels draining, while meaningful, soul-deep conversations ignite something inside you. That's because your spirit longs for depth, not surface. It seeks truth, not performance. It wants authenticity, not empty noise. People often wonder how you can spend so much time alone and still radiate such power. What they don't see is what happens in those silent hours. You're not just resting, you're rising, you're aligning. You're listening to wisdom most people never hear because they're too distracted to be still. And this solitude? It's not just a preference, it's protection. When you're spiritually powerful, you're like a tuning fork. You pick up vibrations, energies, intentions. If you don't guard your space, the chaos of the world will seep into your spirit. That's why you retreat, not to hide, but to heal. Not to isolate, but to recharge. Not to escape, but to reconnect with your true source of power. In silence, you remember who you are. You remember that you are more than your job, more than your relationships, more than the opinions of others. In silence, you realign with your spiritual assignment. This connection to solitude is also what allows you to pour into others so fully. Because you know how to refill your own cup in the quiet, you're able to show up in the world with grace, compassion, and purpose. You're not operating from burnout, you're operating from spiritual overflow. Never let anyone shame you for needing time alone. That solitude is where your power is born. It's where your clarity sharpens. It's where your spiritual fire is rekindled. And when you return from those moments of stillness, you don't just walk back into the world, you glow. Because silence didn't weaken you, it armed you. So yes, your draw to solitude is not just a personality trait. It's a reflection of your soul's deep wisdom. And the truth is, only the spiritually powerful know how to embrace silence and let it speak louder than noise ever could. You're not easily intimidated or controlled. One of the clearest signs that you were born spiritually powerful is this: you are not easily intimidated, manipulated, or controlled by others. Your energy speaks before you do. You may walk into a room quietly, but your presence disrupts the energy. People take notice even if you say nothing. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. And it unnerves people who rely on control or power games to feel important. See, when you're spiritually powerful, you don't seek to dominate others, but you can't be dominated either. You have a strong inner compass. You know who you are, you know your values, and more importantly, you know who you are not. You will not shrink to make someone else comfortable, and you will not bend to pressure when it violates your inner truth. This kind of spiritual groundedness threatens insecure people. Why? Because they can't control you with fear, guilt, shame, or flattery. You've already done the inner work to free yourself from those chains. You've walked through the fire of identity crisis, betrayal, heartbreak, failure, and came out forged in truth. That's why manipulation doesn't work on you. That's why intimidation bounces off you. Your soul sees through the performance. You can feel when someone is trying to push you into something that doesn't align. You can sense when someone's smile doesn't match their intention. And instead of engaging in the performance, you simply detach. You're not reactive. You're not looking for revenge. You just remove your energy. And that alone is power. Because your silence is louder than their manipulation. It's not that you don't get scared. Of course you do. You're human. But fear doesn't own you. You don't let it steer your decisions. You've learned to feel fear, observe it, and keep moving anyway. That's what makes you untouchable in a world that tries to keep people maul through fear tactics. Control doesn't work on someone who has already claimed their sovereignty. You're not waiting for validation. You're not chasing approval. And that freedom, emotional, spiritual, and psychological, is what makes your presence magnetic and unshakable. You don't carry loud dominance. You carry calm power. You don't force people to follow you. They just naturally do because they sense the strength in your authenticity. Spiritually powerful people are not concerned with looking powerful. They are concerned with being real. And that's why you shine in spaces that try to dim people's light. You weren't born to be controlled. You were born to awaken others, not with force, but with example, with your grace, with your refusal to betray your soul just to fit in. So if you've ever been called too much, too intense, too unbothered, let them talk, because what they call too much is actually your power refusing to be tamed. And once you fully own that, there's no force on earth that can hold you back.
You awaken something in other people. When you're spiritually powerful, you don't just exist, you activate. You don't just speak, you awaken. Your energy carries a frequency that stirs something deep in others, often something they didn't even realize was sleeping inside them. And that's not always a comfortable process for those around you. Let's be real. Your presence doesn't allow people to stay asleep to their truth. Your words, your actions, your silence, your standards, they all serve as a mirror. And what people see in that mirror either inspires them to rise or it triggers them to retreat. You may have noticed that some people either gravitate toward you or distance themselves without a clear reason. That's not by accident. That's your energy doing its work. Spiritually powerful individuals are natural awakeners. You don't need a platform or a pulpit. Your life is the sermon. Your healing becomes the permission for others to begin theirs. Your boundaries remind people that self-respect is holy. Your stillness reminds others they're allowed to rest. Your ambition reminds them they don't have to play small. But here's the catch. Awakening others isn't always pretty. Sometimes your presence will cause people to confront the very things they've been avoiding, truths about their relationships, their patterns, their fears, or the lies they've told themselves. That can create discomfort. Some people will admire you for it, others will resent you for it, but all of them will remember you. You see, people don't forget the one who woke them up, even if they never tell you, even if they walk away, even if they pretend they're unaffected. Your energy left a seed in their spirit, and when the time is right, that seed will sprout, and they'll remember that it was you who planted it. That's what it means to be spiritually powerful. You're not here just to be liked. You're here to be impactful. You may not always be understood in the moment, but your presence marks people. You challenge them to be better just by being yourself. You make people question their limits. You make them think deeper, love wiser, move with more intention. And even when you think no one's watching, you're awakening someone. Sometimes, your greatest impact is silent. You won't always get applause for the role you play in someone's growth. But understand this, spiritual power isn't about popularity. It's about purpose. And if you've ever been told that you changed someone's life without trying or made someone feel seen just by being present, that's confirmation of your gift. So own it. Don't dim it. Let your energy continue to shake people awake. Let it challenge what's fake, inspire what's dormant, and ignite what's divine. Because you weren't born to blend in. You were born to awaken. Embrace the fire within. Now that you've seen these 11 signs, take a moment and let this truth settle in. You were not born ordinary.
You were never meant to blend into the background or walk quietly through life, hoping to be accepted. You were born with a purpose, shaped by divine energy, and sent into this world to shift the atmosphere, not just survive it. Spiritual power isn't loud or boastful. It doesn't wear a crown made of ego or seek attention for validation. True spiritual power is silent thunder. It's the unshakable calm in the middle of chaos. It's the wisdom that doesn't need to speak to be understood. It's the presence that turns heads, not because of appearance, but because of alignment. Many people spend their entire lives searching for meaning, yet the spiritually powerful often carry it inside them from a young age. That's why you've always felt a little different, a little more intense, a little more awake, while others sleepwalk through life. You weren't imagining it. You've always been tuned in to something greater. But with that power comes responsibility. You can't afford to water yourself down. You can't shrink just to make others comfortable. The moment you start denying your gift, you start dishonoring your calling. And the world doesn't need another copy. It needs your full, authentic, powerful self. There will be people who misunderstand you, people who will walk away, people who are intimidated by the light you carry. But don't let that dim you. Let it refine you. Every challenge, every betrayal, every spiritual attack has only served to prove your strength, not diminish it. Remember, your presence alone is a force. It heals, it awakens, it uplifts, and it commands change. You don't need to force your influence. Just walk in truth. Just show up with love, boundaries, integrity, and courage, and you'll do more than inspire. You'll transform. Let your path be unconventional. Let your journey be sacred. Let your life be the example that shows others what alignment, power, and spiritual purpose really look like. Because if there's one thing the world desperately needs, it's people who are unapologetically connected to their higher calling. People like you. So keep walking. Keep growing. Keep radiating that light even when no one claps, even when it feels like you're alone. Because you're not. The universe knows who you are. God knows who you are. And deep down, you know it too. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to awaken others. When your energy enters the room, things shift. Don't ever apologize for that. Stay powerful, stay present, stay aligned. The world is waiting for your light.